Tywin was not a threat, political or otherwise, to the Tyrells. Tywin needed the Tyrells on his side. King's Landing had no food, and the Rock's armies had suffered heavy losses in the war with Robb Stark. Joffrey wasn't a political threat. Tywin held the real power, and everyone knew it. But he was a threat to Margaery, her favorite grandchild. He would have grown bored with Margaery at some point and mutilated her. Olenna would never allow that. But Tywin didn't need Joffrey. He only needed the heir of Robert Baratheon. In fact, his life became much easier once Joffrey died. He didn't have to worry that his vicious idiot of a grandson would start a riot over a cow pie. I have wondered why we never heard that Tywin was privately investigating Joffrey's death, since he knew Tyrion wasn't that stupid. Tywin was never a POV character, but I suspect he knew Olenna had poisoned Joffrey the entire time and didn't care. In order for the Lannister-Tyrell alliance to function, the Lannisters needed a functional ruler. Tywin was a brilliant ruler. He knew his limits, and he made it very clear to Olenna what he expected. She was content in her dealings with him. Her granddaughter would be queen, influencing Westerosi politics for years to come. As for Cersei, Olenna didn't really need her. But killing her would have been difficult, and it would have caused suspicion. Joffrey was so widely hated that pretty much anyone at the wedding could have been a suspect if you squinted hard enough. Cersei had enemies, but all were political. So if she died, Tywin would have conducted a thorough investigation, and there's not a snowball's chance he would have shown Olenna any mercy. Besides, Cersei wasn't a risk as long as Tywin was alive. In fact, she wasn't a risk as long as Kevin was alive. She was imprisoned by the faith. Keep in mind that no one really knew about the wildfire plot. There's no way Olenna could have known that there were wildfire caches buried under the September. Did she underestimate Cersei? Possibly. She may not have realized that Cersei wanted absolute power, even if she had to sacrifice her allies. Olenna was back in Highgarden anyway. Arranging for a poisoning would have been difficult. Others have pointed out that the Purple Wedding was a complicated endeavor. Pulling it off a second time, on a target that didn't represent an immediate threat, was simply not worth the effort. Olenna didn't want Tywin Lannister poisoned. She wants her granddaughter to be queen of Westeros, and her great-grandson to be king. The best way for that to happen is for Tywin Lannister to remain Lord Hand. Tywin had every interest in maintaining a good working relationship with House Tyrell. A strong House Tyrell will protect the throne from Lannister enemies. Similarly, a strong House Lannister will protect the throne from Tyrell enemies. It would not serve the interests of House Tyrell to weaken House Lannister, or vice versa. With respect to Cersei, Olenna had no reason to think that Cersei would have launched an attack against House Tyrell until after Cersei had already acted. By the time Olenna realized Cersei's danger to House Tyrell, the time for her assassination had already passed. Plus, it's no easy task to poison a king and get away with it. The plan to kill Joffrey was simple but well thought out to ensure that Olenna was never even suspected of involvement. Poisoning Joffrey wasn't the hard part. The hard part was making sure that Tyrion Lannister was the sole suspect and took all blame. Not a single person at the time thought that it could have been Olenna who did the deed. It would be difficult to do the same for Cersei without Tyrion around to pin the blame on.